What's up guys, Duarte here with another Raid the Shadow Legends video, and in this video we are finally back to talk about Ezio Auditore. How should you build this champion like a pro to make sure that you're using the most advantage out of his kit? There are a lot of things that you have to take into consideration, like if you should be focusing on direct damage, or if you should be focusing on the poisons, or on the bombs, because he has the three different types of damage mechanics plus his passive. So we are going to break down everything that you need to know about Ezio, about the different multipliers of the abilities, and why you should be focusing more on direct damage rather than poison damage or bomb damage. There are different things that you have to take into consideration, including relics and blessings that will not be feasible for most people, and even if they are available to you, they should still not be your priority. But we're going to break down all the information. On top of that, we're also going to talk about which stats to focus on, the best game modes for you to take advantage of this guy, and also the gear, relics, masteries, and so on. So, as always, if you guys like the information on these videos, make sure to share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe for more Raid Shadow Legends content, and make sure to smash that like button like a boss. So let's talk about Ezio and how to build him like a pro. And once again, we're going to talk about his multipliers. So on his A1, he has direct damage multiplier of 4. On his A2, he has direct damage multiplier of 4. The poisons have damage that is a flat amount. And if you have Arachno Elixir, it will be based on your attack. But again, that relies on your base attack and is not available to everyone. We'll talk about that in a second. In terms of the bombs only activate if you are facing Stone Skin, and the multiplier of the bombs will be of 6, which is pretty decent. Finally, we have the A3, which will ignore defense, and it also has a multiplier of 5, and it's once again based on direct damage and his attack. So again, with this in mind, we are going to see that it's true that the bomb damage is of 6, but you have to remember that direct damage, you also have to take into consideration the crit damage as well. So yes, it's a multiplier of 4, but if you have like 200 or 300% crit damage, then it's going to be a multiplier of 12 rather than 6, right? So yeah, and that's the main problem that people make when building these champions, is to focus way too much on the poisons and on the bombs rather than the direct damage. The direct damage with high enough crit damage and attack will always be way superior to the damage multiplier of the bombs or of the poisons. Then you also have to take into consideration, if you are wanting to increase his poison damage, you need lethal dose, and lethal dose only works for PvP. Only works in PvP. That's it. Then the bombs do not build out of lethal dose. They are not affected by lethal dose. So if you are taking this blessing, it's not going to affect your other abilities if you are facing someone that has Stone Skin. And on top of that, a lot of people now are running with the Mercurial set, and the Mercurial set will right away ignore the poisons, and it will also ignore the bombs. So once again, it will also ignore the direct damage, let's be honest, but you have 3 abilities of direct damage and you have 1 ability of poisons or bombs. So again, your priority should be the direct damage and the poisons and the bombs just being an extra, not your main focus. And once again, this is unfortunate because we have these content creators that are showcasing this champion in PvP. Yes, there is nice in PvP with lethal dose and so on, but again, that's something extremely situational, and that is losing value as the meta progresses and more people are building up their Mercurial sets. So again, it's nice to see that it works, but it's not something you should be focusing on for your final build for this champion. His passive will also increase the damage based on his own attack, and this is going to be true damage, but it only activates when the enemies go below 25% health. So you have to get there first, right? So once again, having the direct damage is going to be more important than the poisons and on the other ones. So based on all this information, what stats you should be focusing on? Of course, you want to focus on attack, you want to focus on your crit damage, and of course you want to get as close to crit cap as possible. But if you are going to lose a lot of attack or crit damage for a 5% or 10% crit chance, then it's fine. Like if you have 85% crit chance or 90% crit chance, that's still good enough. You don't have to worry about that. Okay, other stats that you have to focus on is speed and accuracy. With that said, let's talk about the best sets for him. So based on attack, crit damage, crit chance, speed and accuracy, of course the Merciless set is going to be the best option. But because you want him to be a fast damage dealer, you can also run him with a 9-piece Mercurial with stats damage, with the damage stats. So crit damage on the gloves, attack on the chest and so on. You can run a Mercurial set with all these attack stats. That will be fine for him. It will give him the survivability that he needs for content like Faction Wars Hard, like Cursed City, and also at the same time give you some value for PvP as well, as him on the Mercurial set will be actually pretty solid. We are talking about Mercurial set, and of course this is going to be a 9-piece, because this will allow you to get the total guard over and over again. And again, this is a type of champion that should be fast and should be furious. So there you go. Okay. Other options beyond the 9-piece Merciless or 9-piece Mercurial, of course you can use your typical Lethal or Savage with Stone Skin, as it's going to be nice to have some additional survivability. Yes, it's true that he has a mechanic that you have a 50% chance to reduce the damage from 35% or above to 0, but again, it's 50% chance, right? It's 50% chance. Because he's attack-based damage dealer, you cannot do like a Predator. Predator is fine to ignore his dodge mechanic because he has so high health, but because this guy is attack-based damage dealer, that means his base health will be very small, so you have to rely on Mercurial or on Stone Skin to keep him alive. So once again, 9-piece Mercurial or 9-piece Merciless. Then other options, we have Savage Lethal with Stone Skin or Mercurial, but Stone Skin should be your priority. Okay, let's move on to the next topic, which is the blessings. There are different blessings that you can use with him. Once again, because you are doing direct damage, anything that ignores defense will be good. So once again, we are talking about what's her name? The Crushing Rend. But if you want to do Nature's Wrath, if you have a team that will decrease the defense, that apply weakness, that has cruelty, then Nature's Wrath is going to be one of the best options for your Enzo. If you are a new player, if you are still building up your stats and your gear, Brimstone, that's fine, it will give you the guaranteed damage as soon as you have this guy at 5 red. And if you have him to 6 red, once again, Crushing Rend will be great. Soul Reaper will be nice for PvP and dungeons, and then you also have the Warden of the Fallen, which will be good for PvP, dungeons, and live arena most specifically. Other options, Lightning Cage, Intimidating Presence, Even Cast will be okay, but I would leave these for last as options, unless you don't have anyone else with Intimidating Presence to boost your stats of the aura. And Lightning Cage, some people will say it's nice if you're going to play with him with Stone Skin rather than Mercurial. Yeah, sure, it will be nice, but again, it should be a minor priority. Once again, you should remember that PvP, yes, it's real in Raid, but you have a very limited amount of champions that you can use. So using him on Lightning Cage today might make sense, but 1 month from now, when you're going to get a better champion, then that Lightning Cage option will make no sense, and you might not like the feeling of spending 300 gems just to switch his blessing around. So you have to keep that in mind. You can make a decision that is good now, but bad long term, or you can make a decision that might not be the best right now, but it will be better long term. So yeah, I would prioritize the Nature's Wrath for most cases, and if you have him at 6 stars, then you have different options, but that's going to be like something not for everyone. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about his relics. For the relics, we're going to talk about things that make sense. We're not going to talk about Cat's Gaze or anything like that because those are event relics, and the event that ended up 2 years ago might not have any relevancy right now. So Wand of Submission is always going to be great for him in any game mode. So even if you're going to do like some faction wars or some Cursed City, you can take advantage of this as well, but you are not going to increase your damage, just your survivability with extra HP and the speed plus some chance of reflecting negative effects. In case of some more PvE focused Cursed City and faction wars, you can use the Golden Elixir for additional attack and accuracy. Other relics that are going to be similar in stats and with massive value is going to be the Ereti Coronet. This is probably one of the best relics for this guy. Other options that are cheaper and easier to obtain, you have the Malefic Talon, you have the crit damage, the HP and the attack, all things that he can benefit of. And then we're going to talk about this dagger, Steel Eye Cutter, with attack, crit damage and accuracy. So those are going to be the easiest ones to obtain. Chimera, the normal ones, and the ones from Grim Forest. We couldn't talk about the Arachno Elixir, right? Everyone wants to talk about the Arachno Elixir. So this is going to be only for Faction Wars hard mode. And once again, this is going to be only for very, very specific PvP situations. If you're facing someone with Stone Skin, you cannot apply the poisons. If you're facing someone, because you're applying the bombs. If you're facing someone with Mercurial, the poisons will be resisted anyway. If you're facing someone with some other set, it might not even matter. So while on the test server, it looks very interesting to use Arachno Elixir with this guy, in the real world, you might not be able to take full advantage of this. And also the Arachno Elixir makes some problems that you cannot refresh the cooldowns of your champion fast enough if everyone dies with poisons, right? So while this might be interesting in paper, in practice it might not be the best value. So keep that in mind. It's nice, it's interesting to play with, but I'm not sure. I would not recommend this as the best option. I'd rather focus on the Steel Eye Cutter or the Ereti Coronet if you got lucky enough to get it already. Or once again, the Golden Elixir or the Talon. Okay, let's move on to the Masteries, right? We are almost done. We're going to talk about the Masteries. So, of course, you want to focus on big damage dammers. Because his A3 does so much damage, you can use Cycle of Violence. It does enough damage to delete 30% of the enemy's max health, so that's fine with him. He's going to kill enemies, so Kill Streak, it's fine. You can also use the Whirlwind of Death, that's fine too. He's going to kill champions, so that's going to increase his stats. You can also use Art of Glory because he's going to be a fast damage dealer, so it's very likely that you'll attack before he takes damage. And because he has counterattack mechanics from his passive, you can also use him with Methodical and of course Helm Smasher, so you can ignore the defense every now and then. Life Drinker, in my opinion, is something that you always need for some additional survivability, especially when you have strong AoE damage, so you can heal up when you drop below 50. And then you have two options. You can go with defense for some additional AoE damage mitigation and so on. I'm not sure if this is like the best option, but it's okay. You can also go with the counterattack retribution. That's okay too. So when he does not counterattack from his passive, he can counterattack from his masteries, but they do not stack. You cannot counterattack 2 times. You cannot counterattack on alternative ways, right? So if you fail to activate the passive, you can activate the masteries. If you fail to activate the masteries, you can activate the passive, but not both at the same time. And then we have the support. Once again, if you don't have a champion that reliably gives him Veil, you can go for some additional accuracy, Lord of Steel to increase his base attack and crit damage, and then you can go with Master Exer to make sure that those poisons and negative effects that he applies last a little bit longer. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. I'm not really sure if there is any other option that you can take. Spirit Taste, that's okay for Cursed City, but not anywhere else. So yeah, it's up to you if you want to go more defense or support. Both ways are fine. depending on where your gear is and what you're trying to do with this guy. Okay, just for a little bit of gameplay, let's take him to action and the place where I'm using him right now. So let's talk about the game modes where he's going to be useful. So he can solo the campaign, yes, sure. The dungeons, he can solo some of them, but he's definitely going to rely on you switching gear and giving regeneration gear. In my opinion, champions that rely on switching like tons and tons of gear is just too much of a hassle, and it's better for you to just focus on champions that don't have to switch gear around. Like for example, Predator. Predator can solo this without switching gear around. Faction Wars, because he is a part of the Sacred Order, you might have some missions that rely on you to apply poison, so you're gonna need him. And you have champions that can revive him and so on. You have champions that can control the enemies, like Alice with the Turn Rewind and Lockout. So you can focus just on the damage and not having to rely on other mechanics. But once again, Stone Skin for him is going to be fine. Mercurial only if it is a 9-piece. Moving on to other game modes, of course, is going to be decent for Classic Arena, Live Arena, and Tag Arena, but he's not going to be top tier, so keep that in mind. He's going to be above average, but not top tier, so keep your expectations and don't fall for the test server videos where the teams that you are facing on the test server, they are put there on purpose for them to look good, so don't be fooled by those type of videos. Doom Tower is going to be great, especially if you put him with someone that can reset his cooldowns. Otherwise, you might have some problems getting your A2 often enough. Or you can place him with some Kavlax that, again, it's going to do a big poison explosion, but you're just not going to get the cooldowns like often enough. The best place where I'm getting value right now is on Cursed City. You can see, for example, this team setup that is going to be able to solo a bunch of things, but you might have to reset a few times, right, to get a perfect RNG, depending on where your gear is. And once again, because I don't have him full build with relics, he still cannot do everything. But once again, as long as he's a fast damage dealer, this will allow you to get your cooldowns fast enough that, yeah, with just 1 or 2 characters, only the Fat Man and Enzio are geared up, they'll be able to solo most of this content. So this is the value where I'm getting from this guy. And you can see the A3 now, the damage is just brutal. He's able to one-shot enemies quite reliably, and you can use this to your advantage. And again, ignore the poisons, ignore the bombs, because most of the time, those are going to have very, very low value for your overall progress into the game. So let's quit out of this. Let's talk about the other game modes. This is Cursed City Art, by the way. Let's talk about the Siege. Again, because of his aura, the speed in all battles is going to be a great lead for Siege. You can put him on defense or on offense. But again, remember that you might want to pair him up with someone that resets cooldowns or that gives him other levels of survivability. So yeah, but if you're going to use him on Siege, make sure that he has Stone Skin. And finally, you have Grim Forest, where this is a wave-based content. So having that, the cooldowns often and so on, is going to be nice. But yes, it depends on what you pair him up with. Okay, guys, so that's Ezio for you. He's bringing huge value for my account for Cursed City and Faction Wars. Some minor value in Grim Forest. I never use him on PvP because, again, he's just... The bombs and the poisons are just so specific that based on the current meta right now, it makes no sense to use him for those specific game modes. So keep that in mind when you are building this guy. Once again, 9-piece Merciless, 9-piece Mercurial are going to be great, but then Savage or Lethal with Stone Skin are going to be your other best options. So that's going to be all for now, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If I forgot about something, let me know in the comments below. And this is how you build Ezio like a pro. As always, if you guys liked information on these videos, make sure to share these videos with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe for more Raid Challenges content, and I'll catch you guys later.